See, Donald Trump had a problem. Currently, many people in the world believe that he may have gave Bill Clinton that toppy. Now, if you don't know what toppy means, then you're just gonna have to eat that. No, Donald. Oh, them folk finna get me, but let's get serious. You see, this whole thing started with just a few emails. Democrats released 3 emails. Now, these emails were Jeffrey Epstein's emails, basically alluding to the fact that he knew Donald Trump. And remember, the whole time Donald Trump was saying he stopped talking to Epstein like decades ago. Meanwhile, in Jeffrey Epstein's email, he's saying, hey, Donald Trump spent hours with victim at my house. Another email from Epstein saying, of course he, Donald Trump, knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. That's important. We'll get to it later. And there's another email allegedly showing Trump and Epstein had a relationship, but you get the point. Republicans come out heated. They say, look, the Democrats only showing a couple emails to make Donald Trump look bad. We finna release everything. Donald Trump said, y'all finna release what? Y'all the ops? Republicans said, nah, Donald, don't worry. These emails aren't the ones that the FBI and the DOJ have. You see, these specific emails that the Democrats and Republicans are releasing are from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. These aren't the really wild ones that everyone wants released. These are like a starter pack, if you will. So Republicans are thinking, if we release all the starter pack emails and Democrats only release 3, then we're gonna look like the trustworthy ones. Donald Trump said, oh, I see what y'all doing. The plan backfired. Because out of the thousands of emails released by Republicans, Donald Trump was mentioned in about 1,670. People come out and said, hold on now, Donald, I thought you didn't really talk to Epstein like that. Why is he always talking about you? Trump said, crooked Democrats. Everybody said, can you tell us your actual relationship to Epstein? Trump said, can the Democrats stop being crooked? See, we all can't get what we want. Republicans said, nah, y'all missing the point. Everything's up to interpretation. I want you to listen to this next part closely. Remember that email that Democrats released speaking about Donald Trump being at Epstein's house? Well, Republicans released the same email with the victim's name. The victim's name is Virginia. Now, this is important because Virginia was an accuser of Prince Andrew. There go Virginia, there go Prince Andrew, and there go Prince Andrew's hand. Okay, but let's go back to why this is important. Virginia came out with a statement saying that Donald Trump was nothing but a gentleman to her. So Republicans are basically trying to say by Democrats blocking out Virginia's name, they wanted to make Trump look bad. But Virginia came out herself and said, Donald Trump, he's fine. So again, Republicans' point is everything's up to interpretation. You got to see the full picture. Now, remember that other email I showed you earlier that Democrats released? Of course, Trump knew about the girls. Republicans said, hold on now, hold on. Look at that second part. As Trump asked Ghislaine to stop. Ghislaine's an accomplice of Epstein. She's actually right here in this picture. So again, Republicans are saying Trump asked her to stop. We not saying we know what he's asking her to stop, but we just saying everything's up to interpretation. See, y'all not peeping game. Democrats only want to come out with 3 emails. We gave y'all thousands. The American people said, interpret this one. Republicans said, no, y'all wasn't supposed to actually read the emails. We was just trying to prove a point. But since we're here, no, that one's weird. All right, here's where things start to get wicked. While Republicans were yapping about the 3 emails that the Democrats released, people started taking a look at the other thousands of emails. In one of these email threads, Jeffrey is talking to his brother, Mark. And Mark asked Jeffrey this. Let me give some of y'all a second, because Lord knows I need one. And well, people start putting pieces together. People have always said that Donald Trump shockingly does whatever Putin says. So people speculated, well, maybe that's because Putin has pictures of Donald. Now, as for who Bubba is, people instantly thought Bill Clinton. Why? Well, because Bill Clinton's nickname is Bubba. And Bill Clinton's name has been brought up a few times regarding Jeffrey Epstein. And the memes were wild, hilarious, but wild. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's stay on track. Why you be opening his mouth like that? My fault. Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark, comes out and says, look, those were private emails between my brother and I. And Bubba is not Bill Clinton. Mark was saying he likes Bill Clinton. That email had nothing to do with Bill. Now, Mark ain't say it didn't happen. He just said it wasn't about Bill Clinton. Donald Trump looked at the Republicans. Republicans said, who Bubba? We just playing, Donald. Look, on the bright side, everybody talking about this. They not asking for the real files to be released no more. This is like a meme. You know the memes? The American people said, nah, we can do both. Where the big files at? Republicans said, damn, y'all folk want them files bad, huh? People have been asking for the Epstein files to be released more and more. So now people still want the files, and now they think Donald Trump gave Bill Clinton toppy. he's having a bad week. Because despite all the fun and games, people realized something. They show that Trump allegedly knew Epstein more than he said he did. And these emails also show us that the FBI statement saying Epstein did everything on his own and he didn't really correspond with anybody else. Well, that's probably false as well, because in just these starter emails that were released, Epstein's talking about everybody. It really seems like Epstein knew everybody and had a lot of dirt on a lot of people. So again, people are thinking the FBI saying Epstein did all of those illegal acts on his own, then himself, doesn't sound reasonable. And on top of that, it turns out the rest of the Epstein files might be released. You see, Democrats just swore in a new member of the House, and that new member was basically the final signature needed to pass an act saying that the Epstein files must be released. Now, I want you to listen to this short timeline, because sides get flipped so often amongst politicians that things can be a little confusing. So Democrats said, let's release all the Epstein files. Donald Trump said, no, don't do that. Some Republicans are saying, maybe we should. A lot of Republicans are saying, nah, we shouldn't. This new Democratic House member gets sworn in. So everyone knows that the vote to release the Epstein files is gonna pass. So now people start jumping sides. Democrats still saying the same thing. Release the Epstein files. Now we have enough votes to do it. Now, a lot more Republicans start saying, yes, release the Epstein files, because they know that they're going to be released anyway and they want to be on the right side of history. Donald Trump still saying, no, don't do it. Donald Trump starts calling in House members to one-on-one meetings, presumably House members whose minds he could change, saying, don't vote for the release of the Epstein files. Although I believe it was actually one House member he called in to change her mind. She said, no, I'm siding with the Democrats. We're going to release those files. So at this point, it doesn't really matter what Donald Trump says or does. Donald Trump and his team start to realize that. So Donald Trump starts going after all the Republicans, saying they're falling for a Democratic trap. He says only a very bad, stupid Republican would fall into that trap. Republicans look at Donald, they say, Donald, if Democrats vote to release the files and we don't, then we gonna look bad. And if it's us or you know we finna choose us. Donald Trump says, y'all the ops. So Trump starts to see where the tide is turning. So now it's time for a new strategy. Trump says, hey, let's release those files. I don't care. He said Republicans have nothing to hide. This is a Democratic hoax. Republicans took that as the green light. Now all the Republicans, except for one, and the Democrats voted for the release of the Epstein files. Remember the timeline. Democrats say release them. Republicans and Donald Trump say no. Democrats get enough votes and it looks like the files are going to be released. So a couple Republicans start switching sides. Donald Trump sees where the tide is turning. So he says, yeah, let's release them. All the Republicans, except one, say, let's release them. And at this point, I don't even know. Let me change my background real quick. I don't even know what we're going to get in these files anymore. But what I do know is it better be bad and everybody better get snitched on, because I'm not going to believe the files if a bunch of billionaires aren't implicated. Because in my opinion, if the files weren't bad and if all of this was just Epstein doing all this stuff by himself and Donald Trump and no other billionaires were involved, then the files would have been released a long time ago. But either way, I'm betting there's going to be a lot of talk before the files are actually released. But either way, we wait and we see. Also, have a good rest of your day.